Now's not the right time. I'll take care of myself later when life slows down. How many times have you said this to yourself or heard someone else say? It sounds so reasonable, doesn't it? Life is busy, there are responsibilities, deadlines, people who need us, chores that pile up, and unexpected obstacles that pop up just when we think we have a moment to breathe. So we tell ourselves that we will take care of ourselves later, when the house is clean, when the project is finished, when the kids are older, when work isn't as hectic, when we finally have some free time. But here's the truth. That later never comes. I have heard these words over and over again as a healer, a witch, a psychologist who has had the honor to guide and coach countless people through their personal journeys of growth. And I have even said them myself time and time again until I finally learned my lesson. Maybe as you listen to this, you're recognizing that you say these words too. Maybe you've built your life around this belief, unknowingly postponing your well-being over and over again. But I'm here to tell you something. You don't have to wait. In fact, you don't have the time to wait. Our perception of self-care has been shaped by societal expectations, our upbringing, and a world that has become so disconnected from a natural way of living that it sometimes takes years to return to what is truly healing and pure. But today we are uncovering those beliefs. We are shining a bright light on them so that we can break through the mental blockages that hold us back, so that we can start to feel happier, healthier, less stressed, and more balanced. Because don't we all need that? Let's take a deeper look at the subconscious beliefs that keep you from caring for ourselves. Because these thoughts, they are not truths. They are constructs. So what about I'll take care of myself later? Well, first we must accept that life is always going to be busy. It evolves, things happen, the world keeps spinning. There is no magical moment when we will have checked off every item on our to-do list and finally have a long stretch of nothingness in which to focus on ourselves. As humans, we are designed to evolve and strive, and so are our lives. There will always be responsibilities, there will always be chaos, and that means self-care needs to be woven into our daily lives, not placed at the bottom of the list as something to get to when everything else is done. See your life energy as a battery. Everything you do, tasks, stress, obligations, drain that battery. And things like rest, joy, self-care and play, those recharge it. But if we are constantly draining without ever recharging, what happens? We burn out, we hit a wall, we break down. So here's what we need to do. Identify our energy thieves and our energy generators. What drains you and what fills you up. And you can simply write a list and put everything and anything on it that you can think of. Habits, people, activities, thoughts. For example, spending time in nature might be an energy generator. Mindless scrolling through the news, energy thief. Journaling and reflection, energy generator. Unnecessary meetings that could have been an email, energy thief. Taking a minute to close your eyes and breathe deeply, energy generator. Losing your temper and yelling at the crotch goblins, energy thief. Once we recognize what depletes us and what fuels us, we can start balancing our energy. Every time we expend energy, we must refill it. And this is not indulgence, it's pure survival. And this very excuse to not make time for necessary self-care is often stemming from something much deeper. Many of us believe that we must earn rest, convincing ourselves that relaxation is only acceptable once everything is done. But the truth is, the work is never done. There will always be something more to do. Similar feelings of unworthiness can leave us to believe we don't deserve self-care until we reach a certain level of success or productivity. This dangerous mindset keeps us stuck in a loop of exhaustion and prevents us from recharging when we need it most. And this again stops us from thriving, from being our happiest and healthiest self. It keeps us exhausted, small, struggling, unhappy. We have also been conditioned to equate our value with productivity, thinking that every moment must be useful or else is wasted. But real productivity doesn't come from constant action. It comes from balance, from knowing when to push forward and when to pause. And self-care is not something you have to wait for. It is not something to earn. It is something you prioritize. Because without it, everything and, in the long run, everyone else in your life will suffer. Many people believe that self-care is something only those with extra time and money can afford, associating it with luxury retreats, expensive skincare, or an elaborate wellness routine. But the truth is, self-care is not the same as indulgence. It is about sustainability and effort. Small, simple acts like setting boundaries, drinking enough water, and taking deep breaths are crucial for everyone, regardless of their financial situation or schedule. Yet so many of us dismiss these small acts as unimportant, convincing ourselves that self-care is reserved for people with fewer responsibilities or more resources. Then there's the common excuse, I don't have time for self-care. And this belief is rooted in the idea that anything worthwhile must be time-consuming or grand, but true self-care is about integrating moments of rest and restoration into everyday life. The reality is we often do have the time, we're just spending it poorly. And yes, hearing this might hurt, especially if you subconsciously used this as an excuse to be stuck in old patterns and unhealthy coping mechanisms. Instead of prioritizing our well-being, we let energy thieves like endless chores, obligations, and mindless scrolling consume the time we could be using to take care of ourselves. If we want to take better care of ourselves, we first need to free up the time for it. Often, we already have more time than we think. We're just not utilizing it effectively. And one of the best ways to reclaim time for self-care is through batchworking, a technique that involves grouping similar tasks together to increase efficiency and reduce wasted time. For example, one of the biggest time drains for many people is the phone. How often have you picked it up to check one notification only to realize you've been mindlessly scrolling for way longer than intended? Instead of checking your phone every few minutes, set dedicated times throughout the day to check messages and social media. Personally, I'd recommend once, maximum twice a day. The rest of the time, keep it out of reach. It might seem impossible at first, but remember, people lived for centuries without being constantly plugged in. And I promise you, once you start, you'll realize how much time you gain. Batchworking can also apply to other aspects of your daily life. For example, instead of cooking every meal separately, meal prep a few times a week to save hours in the kitchen. Block out specific time slots for answering emails so you're not constantly switching between tasks. Plan errands in a way that allow you to get multiple things done in one trip instead of spreading them out over multiple days, and start to plan processes that don't need to be planned out every week new and will take up your mental capacity, but that can be repeated over and over again. These small adjustments can free up significant pockets of time that you can dedicate to self-care without feeling guilty. But beyond just strategies, the biggest shift comes from a mindset change. We need to stop viewing self-care as an extra and start treating it as essential. If you want to dive deeper into mastering self-care, shift your perception and learn how to treat yourself with the same love and attention you give to others, then my course, Awaken Your Inner God/Goddess, is for you. In this 1-month intensive program, we will break down the limiting beliefs, implement actionable self-care strategies, and transform the way you approach your well-being. Check out the link below to join this program filled with live group coaching, email prompts, workbooks, psychology, and a lot of magic. So how often have you heard that self-care means bubble baths, yoga, or meditation? And while those things can be self-care, they are not the only way to nourish yourself. True self-care is deeply personal, and for some it's baking a homemade loaf of bread and enjoying the slow process. For others, it's reorganizing a messy space to create a sense of peace. It could be as simple as drinking enough water, setting boundaries, doing your taxes, or listening to your favorite song on repeat. It could be correcting your inner monologue to something more positive and uplifting over and over again until it really seeps into your beliefs about yourself. Self-care is essentially parenting yourself gently and making sure your needs are met in every aspect of your life. It's about fulfilling yourself on multiple levels, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritual, and making your life easier and happier, not harder and horrible. The idea that self-care has to follow a specific mold is misleading and discouraging. It makes people feel like if they're not lighting candles and practicing meditation in a dimly lit room, then they're doing it wrong. But self-care isn't about aesthetic, it's about effectiveness. What genuinely helps you feel recharged and balanced is what counts as self-care. Then there's also the comparison trap. People busier than me seem to handle things fine without self-care. I should too. And this is one of the most damaging beliefs we carry. We look at others who seem to manage their workload, personal lives, and responsibilities without taking breaks, and we convince ourselves that we must be weak if we can't do the same. But the truth is, everyone has different needs, different levels of energy, and different ways of coping with life's demands. And you can never fully compare your situation to someone else's. Even if two people have the same job, the same number of kids, and the same hobbies, that still tells us nothing about their energy levels, past experiences, resilience, life satisfaction, learned coping strategies, personal preferences, neurological and biological makeup, or personality. One person might thrive on social interaction, while another needs solitude to recharge. One might be able to function on 5 hours of sleep, while the other one needs a full 8 to feel human. The factors that influence our energy and well-being are endless, and comparison only leads to unrealistic expectations and unnecessary guilt. And here we come back to the list of energy thieves and energy generators. What depletes me may not deplete you, and what fills me up may do nothing for you. The key is understanding your own energy balance, and I would bet that some of my energy generators are complete horrors for you, like inviting my toddler into the kitchen, making a mess with flour and baking together, or organizing a huge party or get together for friends or clients, or going on an extremely challenging hike in the mountains. Well, some of my personal energy drains might fuel you, like watching a movie, drinking caffeinated coffee, or doing the dishes, which is a shame because I love to cook and bake. By understanding what fuels me and what depletes me again, helps me make better decisions about where I put my energy. Some tasks are unavoidable, but when I know I'm spending energy, I can intentionally make space for activities afterwards that refill my cup again. One of the biggest misconceptions about self-care is that it should always be pleasant, relaxing, and instantly gratifying. The belief that if it doesn't make me happy right away, it's not working, is misleading and can keep you from truly taking care of yourself in a meaningful way. The truth is, real self-care isn't just about bubble baths and cozy blanket. It often involves discomfort. Yes, discomfort. It's about doing the hard but necessary things that contribute to your long-term well-being, such as saying no, setting boundaries, facing difficult emotions, organizing your finances, or engaging in deep self-reflection. It's important to distinguish between self-care and what I call a patch, a temporary fix that soothes you in a moment but doesn't address the underlying issues. Patches are more often than not marketed to us as real self-care, but they don't provide sustainable nourishment for the soul. They're the things we reach for when we are already drained, things that offer a quick hit of relief but may leave us feeling worse afterwards. For example, 3 glasses of wine after a stressful day, momentarily relaxing but leaves you groggy and unproductive the next morning. A glazed donut when you're emotionally exhausted. Tastes good but makes you feel sluggish or uncomfortable in your body later. Mindless scrolling on your phone for hours. Numbs your stress for a while but leaves you feeling empty and like you wasted valuable time. Patches aren't inherently bad, but they're not true self-care. They help you settle down in a moment, but they don't replenish your energy in a sustainable way. That's why real self-care is proactive, not just reactive. Meaning you have to do it before it is too late. Real self-care is about understanding what you truly need and intentionally making space for it. Not just when you are in crisis mode, but as a consistent practice. If you thrive on alone time, Build it into your routine. Wake up earlier than your family for quiet moments. Choose a job that allows flexibility, or say no to social engagements that feel draining. If you need structure in order to feel at ease, meal prep for the week ahead. Clearly communicate your boundaries regarding commitments and create organizational systems that support you. If you frequently feel hurt or overwhelmed by other people's behavior, shadow work might be your form of self-care. Ask yourself, why does this affect me so deeply? Is this about them, or is this about something unresolved in me? What inner work do I need to do to regain control over my emotions and reactions? Self-care isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it's making the tough decisions to walk away from toxic relationships, saying no when it would be easier to say yes, or sitting with difficult emotions instead of numbing them. But true self-care is about nourishing yourself in a way that allows you to thrive, not just survive. The key is to shift from using self-care as a last resort to making it a daily practice, so that when challenges arrive, you already have the energy, resilience and clarity to handle them in a way that genuinely serves you. And lastly, here are 3 beliefs that are probably the most used when it comes to self-care. If I'm not constantly giving or serving, I am not valuable. I cannot prioritize myself. Other people need me. And if I focus on myself, I'm neglecting my responsibilities. And I would say all of these are probably the most toxic ones that really throw you into a circle of deep poo-poo. If you find yourself in any of them, definitely come and join the Awaken Your Inner God/Goddess month-long workshop, and I'll teach you how to start treating yourself right so others can do so too. Let me know what belief you struggle most with and what your favorite self-care technique is. See you soon!